Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we are talking about probably a very unsexy topic, but a very important topic. It's all about your marketing strategy, why you should have one, how it really differentiates you from everybody else, and why you could potentially be wasting a lot of money on your marketing material if you don't have a really solid marketing strategy where you understand why you're different from everybody else and what makes you incredibly unique. And you're able to then communicate those messages in a unique way with your brand message, with your why, and understanding your clients' pain points, and just communicate what it is that you do, how you change lives, and the impact that you have on their businesses. And then we wrap it up at the end with an action plan and how you do that. So I hope you stick around and enjoy the podcast. We are talking all about the very non-sexy topic of marketing strategies and action plans. Try as I may to make it sound as sexy as possible. When you're just talking straight out about the grunt end of the business world, people kind of glaze over and they're not as interested in it. But this is actually where people get the most traction, and this is the difference between having a business that really succeeds and a business that just gets the same results that it gets every year. Because if you don't actually plan ahead, it's just like if you're doing a car trip or going somewhere, you're not just going to jump in the car and point north and hope you hit Brisbane, because you could end up anywhere if you take a wrong turn, and you can get laid off just all over the place. You can just get misled wherever, it's not. You need a direction, you need a path, and you need a focus. And this can only happen when you have a true intimate knowledge of who you are in your business and what you do and what you stand for. So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. And people kind of, when we get in front of them and we talk about, and I talk to them about, their strategy and stuff, and I start talking to them and getting really deep and asking them personal questions, they get a bit confronted and they're like, well, aren't we just going to do a SWOT analysis? And aren't we going to just look at the business? And I'm like, well, no, this is the deep stuff that we need to get into. So I'm guessing that you're here because you're probably struggling knowing how to connect authentically with your audience online right now. I'm guessing if you are in business now, things have changed to you drastically because of COVID. You really need to improve your online game. A lot of clients have, but a lot of clients are still in denial. It's pretty tragic, actually. I live in Sydney. Walking around the streets of Sydney in any area, the amount of police signs is quite catastrophic. And people will say, oh, it's so sad, I'm really sorry for the retail industry, it's so terrible what's happening, but the writing's been on the wall for a very long time. And people are still in a bit of a state of shock. This has been an incredibly emotional time, and people are still coming out of it. We're traumatized. Like, I heard a really full-on stat the other day, and I don't know if it's true because it was on Facebook, but the statistic was that 70%, or was it 30%? I think it was, whatever it was a stupid amount of number of kids. I think it was 30%, because I remember thinking that's too much, are on antidepressants right now for stress and trauma. School students, having been homeschooled and, thinking that they were out of the isolation and then going back into isolation, it's very traumatic. So can you imagine what that does to a population at large? Their buying habits, the way that they spend their money, what they choose to do in their spare time. Do they invest in business? Do they invest in employing people? Do they invest in getting premises? So many businesses have gone out of, have just gone. And I think a lot of them use COVID as a bit of an excuse to close the doors of a failing business. But moving forward, I've been in business for 21 years and it has changed so much. We need to be really, and I think one of the reasons why I've managed to stay in business is because I can roll with the resilience. I always talk about resilience, but I can roll with the punches and I can recognize what is coming up ahead of me, so I'm ready for it and I'm not reacting. I'm being more proactive. So I used this example the other day. When I started out, when I went to uni, there were just computers coming in, and then when I went into my job, as a graphic designer, we made so many of the manual graphic designers out of work because they refused to learn computers. And then when websites come out, so many graphic designers lost a lot of business because they refused to learn how to do website development, but I didn't. And then when social media came in, a lot of people refused to learn how to, utilize social media properly and do their online marketing and utilize video and and podcasting, and connecting with their audiences and trying and learning the new ways of doing things, even as that changes every time. Like, you have to be at the forefront of what is going on. Doesn't mean you jump on every single trend and fad, but you still do need to be aware of what's going on and what suits you and what suits your target audience. Otherwise, you are going to get left by the wayside. There's no point pretending to be something that you're not. And Kelly came through my connection marketing course last year. And when Kelly learned how to let go of her fear around, being seen and being vulnerable, and is she good enough to be seen, and actually realizing that her story is fantastic and that what she has to communicate with people is exactly what people need to hear, her particular target audience. And then she was able to start marketing like a crazy woman and making video and getting up on front. And so that's the whole thing is about, Kelly, you asked before about, it's so noisy in social media. And yes, it is incredibly noisy. And you'll become quite good at analysing when you see people and they get up there and they're blah, blah, blahing all over the place, and they're sounding quite noisy and maybe even impressive, but unless they're really understanding who their audience is and getting their message across to their audience specifically, it's just noise, and it will only ever be noise. But what the problem is, and even I found this because I took quite a bit of time out this year, I was working on a music project, which is a whole other side story, and I sort of let go of my online connection with my audience. It takes a little bit to build it back up again. You have to be consistent. Consistency is key. As soon as you drop off, somebody else comes in and can pick up. So it's all the same. We're all human beings, and we all just want to be spoken to and heard and felt like the other person cares in the way that they're marketing the business. So I use Mark Bouros as an example. Now, he's very corporate. He is what's he now? He's Yellow Brick Road, and he had Wizard Finance, I think it was. And now he's all over social media. He makes video daily. He is all over LinkedIn. He's all over my Instagram feed, and he's talking very much to every age audience. And he says to people, don't use technology as a hindrance to you. Don't think that it's something that you can't master at whatever age you're at. And this is what I was talking about before, when the writing's on the wall, and it's great you guys are here getting knowledge and learning about how to do things differently, because you have to do things differently, because the greatest thing you can do wrong in your business when it comes to marketing is be like everybody else. And we tend to be like everybody else when we're unconfident in who we are. We want to be liked. We want people to think that we're clever. We don't want to face any kind of criticism. So the danger in that is that then we become so vanilla that we don't actually stand for anything, and then it's really hard to actually even understand, well, what makes you different? What are you about? So for me, that's why I jumped on really a few years ago. I realized I'm in a very competitive industry, just using myself as an example, in the marketing space. Everybody's out there talking. Everyone's promising the latest funnel to you, the latest social media hack, the latest everything. And quite frankly, while there are basic principles that you should follow, and I'll share them with you as we're going through this, the secret ingredient, the secret sauce is and always will be you or your people in your business. There's nothing wrong with you putting your team out in front in your marketing as your point of difference, because it's humans solving problems for humans is what business is all about. And if you can make your marketing speak on that level, well, then you are already instantly ahead of every other kind of corporation. You guys need to do video. You need to be connecting more to your audience. You need to be telling your stories, success stories. You need to be sharing a whole lot of the good stuff that you do. So your problem is a very different problem to a company with a small income, but it's not really actually. You've all got the same problems, which is how do I make an impact to my audience? And if you just break it back down to the very basics of what connection marketing is all about, is humans speaking to humans, humans helping humans. And when you can actually understand who those humans are and what their pain is that they're suffering from and how you feel that pain, when you understand that everything that we do in business is all about people. So I'll keep going through, but yeah, I hope that's probably the most important thing that you'll learn. And that's what I think people go, oh, but I wanted to get, there must be a formula, there must be a hack, there must be a trick. And well, no, there's not. They're all just tools and methods and techniques. Until you understand the psychology of your audience, you're either going to fluke it and have great impact, or you're not going to have the impact that you want to get to the next level. You still need to be growing, because these are real human beings that you employ that you need to keep feeding. It's like this big enormous machine, whether it's a small one or a big one, and you need to be feeding that. So having a strategy is incredibly important, and yet it's something that people shy away from so much, which just blows my mind. So I've spoken around a lot about this already, but I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity to do things better. And I think people are still in a bit of a state of panic with COVID and just wondering how it's all going to roll out for them. But the strategy is what's going to make the massive difference for you. So my why has always been my kids. Now they're men though. So it's interesting. I'm going through a transition phase. My why is actually all about helping people who are wanting a better life to do their businesses better, and to not just connect to their audience, but to connect to themselves and understand what their purpose is and their mission in the world, and make it a better place. So it's a pretty big, lofty why, but it's a cool why. And when you understand that, you can market around that. And that is one of the best ways to stand out and to position yourself as being different. Again, like there's so many people in the marketing space talking about all the different funnels and the different strategies, and you can do this and you can do that, and it might work and it might not work, and you need a lot of money to invest into that. So I pull it right back to the basics with the connection and with the human interaction, and understanding who you are and who you serve and what your purpose is. And then you can have by far a bigger dynamic impact when you really connect on that level. This is something I'll talk about too, is don't ever be afraid to show your passions in your marketing. So you can talk about what the company's passionate about, or the projects that you're working on, or the legacies that you're leaving, or the charities that you're supporting. I know bigger organizations have, you'll have equal opportunity, employment, where you'll bring in people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Talk about those stories. These are real, human element stories. I have clients that are much smaller, and they say, how can I stand out? And one strategy we've got going with a guy at the moment, he's up in the Sunshine Coast. I said, it's a very big sporty area. And I said, so why doesn't your company then, because their market are tradespeople. I said, why don't you make your market then, a way to connect with your market or tradespeople is that you actually get involved with the local sporting associations up there, but somebody who's got like a national athlete. So because he wants to have a nationwide business. So it's somebody from your local area, but they also have a nationwide reach, and you support them. And if you pick somebody in the field of athletics, using that as an example, they are poverty stricken. I know national level athletes that are going to international competitions, and they are scratching around just for $1,000 here or $1,000 there from people to help support them. So any small business can get behind somebody, from that, if that works for your target audience. There's the lady, God, I wish I had the stats in front of me, from kikki.K. That's like a stationery brand. So this is a very big, large national organisation, and she sells stationery. So, her biggest competitor in the kikki.K, so it's very, very pretty, it's very feminine, it's very girly, it's very expensive too. So, you could go to Big W or Kmart, and they've got some nice ranges there. Officeworks have got some nice ranges, or the next level up is Typo. They've got some really great ranges, and they're all a lot less money. Whereas the lady from kikki.K though, she is running, I wish I could remember what it was called, but it's an initiative she's doing online. It's all about being your better self and really taking people through with goal setting and being their best self and taking them on a journey. And I think it's an online course or something, like some sort of online movement, and she's running it and promoting it the way she is. I have to look it up. I'm being a bit vague in the way I'm describing it, but I'm just giving it to you as an example because she's created her own initiative, her own movement, her own charity. So people are falling in love with her brand and spending too much money on very expensive journals and stationery, but that's how she's engaging them. And it's had massive follow through, and she's connecting back to charities and giving them money as well. So, it's the story that you tell and that you weave. And if you need to create it yourself for creating some kind of foundation, nobody is too small to create their own movement. You've got to tune into people that can help you and not necessarily have to pay them all the time, particularly when you're small. And if they believe in what you believe in and you guys all share the same values, you've got a much better chance of getting them on board. And then they can take a piece of the pie as well when you create this thing. So this is where the strategy comes in. So if you're sitting down and thinking like this, you are completely different to every other person in your industry if you actually create your own product. That's why I created Connection Marketing. That's why I created my own online course. That's why I have my own podcast. Like, I'm creating a connection movement. And I was talking with Kelly about this the other day, is one of my greatest points of difference, and I just share this with you because it's just trying to give you those examples, is self-belief. So you'll go to another marketing agency and they won't talk to you about self-belief. They won't talk to you about personal development. That's a massive part of my message because I understand that is what's holding most people back from having a kick-ass personal brand and getting online. That's what's holding them back. So if I'm the person in my industry actually talking about that, well then how unique and special is that? And how much do I stand out? And how much does my loyalty and credibility go up because of that? There's a big support local movement, and these days when somebody says support local, it can actually mean support Australia. You know, like I had 2 chocolates in my hand last night. One was Lindt chocolates and the other one was something from Byron Bay. Well, guess which one I bought, you know, as a gift for somebody. Of course I bought the Byron Bay one. And this whole loyalty thing, shop loyal, yeah, it's a bit of a tired old message, but if you can like tweak it and really make it unique, and again, find ways to collaborate with other people in your industry or outside of your industry, that a part of your message, part of your passion, this is how you're going to grow and explode your business more. But this is what it's all about. These are the things that you need to be working on in your strategy. So I'll keep flying through because I want to make sure I want to get everything in here. Now, I've talked about this, that everything in life comes down to human connection, humans just doing business with humans on any level. You want to really understand who your audience is, and I'll go into that in a minute. I want you to connect to your why. I've talked to you about that and why that's so important. And because ultimately it leaves you with confidence, and I want you to walk away from here with a very good understanding of the elements of what goes into your marketing strategy and the action plan. So the first thing about the strategy, and I've already talked about this a little bit, is this is the first things that I ask when I sit down. So I'll typically sit down with a client. We'll sit there for half a day and I'll just pen to paper and I'll write like a crazy person. Find out what makes you unique. There's no point spending a cent on marketing until you have a very innate sense of what makes you unique. And being unique is not fast, friendly service. Unique is really the things that like your why, like I showed you before, your reason for doing business, the people that you help, the pain that they're in, and your unique solution to that pain. And if you can actually, like what I did with connection marketing, if you can actually trademark a name, create a name for the service that you provide and give it your own unique flavor, instantly you're unique and you're standing out. So connection marketing really is just relationship marketing, which is a term. But I kept realizing in all my conversations that I was having with people, the word connection just kept coming up, and it is a go forward, relevant, very relevant term at the moment. And I just thought there's something in this, and so I've captured the market. I've called it connection marketing for a reason, because and people say to me now, "Oh, you're the connection marketing person." Yes, I am. So if somebody just wants to do a really boring marketing presentation, or just, market around their company and not get their people involved and not put themselves at the front, not do video, not stand out for anything, then I'm not their person. And that's 1,000,000% cool. But people like you guys, you understand the human element of doing business, then I am your person. And it's all about the consistency of the message, getting that across with your strategy. That is what is going to get, like Kelly said, how do you stand out from the noise? That's how you stand out, is with the consistency of the message and turning up week in, week out. So you can get discouraged. Like, you don't just stop, like some people will be like, "Oh, I'm so disappointed." Like you put out one blog and it doesn't get a great response, or you put out a video, it doesn't get a great response. You put up a webinar, it doesn't get a great response. It's just tweaking. Marketing is just a whole series of experiments, really, in what you're doing. And you test and measure everything. You look at what worked really well. You go, wow, okay. So when I actually marketed it around that phrase or that thing or that product, I did a thing 2 weeks ago where I put up how to create video and lose your nerves around that. That had huge response, huge amount of people signed in for that. Okay, so that's a pain point. That's a touch point for people. So I know that if I want to get a bigger audience or get in front of more people, that's something to market against. So, and using a dry topic, not so cool, not so sexy, less response. So my point is this is a confidence game. You don't stop doing something because, oh my God, I tried that once and it didn't work. It's just something you need to test and measure. And so these are the strategies that'll help you get to it quicker. Are you unique? who is your niche target audience? You know, like, can you niche down and get way more specific about who you're talking to? You know, what are their income level? What's their education level? Do they have interests and hobbies? What are their values? You know, where do they hang out? What movies do they watch? What music do they listen to? Do they have hopes and dreams for their kids? You know, are they a certain type of personality? Are they are they high performing people? Are they people that have their own businesses? Or do they work for people? Are they people that work in public service? There's so many things when you're coming down to your target audience, and I can't stress to you enough how much time you spend in this area with your business around who you're serving. Because on the previous slide that I had was all about being unique, but about being unique and that you need to provide massive value, share your opinion, be uniquely you, but you need to know who you're talking to. And if you don't know who you're talking to, like down to the nitty gritty, and I know people, and this works really well, where they have an avatar, where they actually have, and they'll give that person a name. And so they say her name's Cheryl, you know, and they literally have a picture of her, and so they put her up on their pinboard and they have all the characteristics of this person there. So then when you're creating every piece of marketing material, every video, every blog post, you know, every social media post, you're just targeting it at that individual, that human being. Remember I said business is all about just humans doing business with humans. So you're targeting it specifically at that person. And you might have a female client and a male client. And in the course, Kelly will know this, I have like A, B, and C type target audiences. So, you know, which one are you going to and who are you structuring your message specifically to? Because the more that it feels like to that person that you are 100% just in tune with them, it's like, wow, how did you get inside my brain? The more that you will get an impact for your marketing. So about how do you stand out in the noise, the more you fine tune that message, the more that you're talking specifically to that audience, the more that they will hear you. So, and the more it will resonate with them. And you don't want them just to hear you. You really want them to feel you. You really want them like to touch their heart and just to feel like, they get me, they understand me, they got my back. And it is something that bigger companies are frightened of, getting down to the nitty gritty and getting really personal. But I think that can be your massive point of difference, that you are the company that gets personal. So wouldn't it be great to put out video that shared stories about your team leaders and actually showed behind the scenes of them being real people, and, you know, getting up and we do this with real estate agents a lot, you know, getting up in the morning, they go to the gym, they meet with their team, and you might have, you know, a special needs person employed in that team, and you know, that's your bit you're doing for the community, and this is the charity that you're helping, and then this is the day in the life of you, and this is how you help the companies that you work with, and that real personal feeling, and so people actually kind of like, yeah, they're cool. You know, they're not big faceless corporation. I really get that company. I really feel that company. You know, it can work for bigger organizations. You don't want to do it in a contrived way. It wants to be real. You really are using real people in your marketing when you do this. And that's the beautiful thing. So you're not using actors, you know, or beautiful models. You're using real life people, and what a way to surge forward, particularly with the emotional state that most people are in right now. And we talked about that with COVID. You know, this goes across the board, any size business this relates to. So you lead in with your marketing message where you ask a question, you talk about the pain, you put it at the front of your marketing message, and then you address their fears and desires, and you speak in a language that the person's going, far out, that person is so in my head, I can't believe it. And then you show how you solve the problem. So you sort of wrap it up, and you end it quite positively, where you show the problems that you solve. And other parts of the strategy of what you need to do when you're putting together your marketing strategy is, a lot of people, when I say to them, when I go in and sit down and do this one-to-one, I say to them, well, what do you want? What are your goals for the next year? Most people don't know. So they'll say some stupid thing like, we just grow 10%. I'm like, really? That's it? That's all you want? Like, you know, so really get clear cut on what you want. And this all comes back to connecting to your why. When you know why you're doing what you're doing and the impact that you make and the difference that you want to make and who you're helping and why it feels so bloody good, you know, which is the whole reason why you're in business, because most people are in business, they went into business because they were good at something, but they stay in business because they actually love helping people fundamentally. So, you know, this is all about understanding your values and your vision and your mission, and then we share that and communicate that back to your audience in your marketing. So can you see why, I don't know why people think putting together a marketing strategy is boring. Like, this is so exciting, because this is why people choose you, and this is why people, when they put out their marketing and it doesn't work, is because they didn't do this. They didn't put the strategy together, and they didn't communicate the passion behind their business and the why. This is like the most important thing you'll do in any step of putting together your marketing material. People that really exploded during this COVID time are people that had children's services, you know. And I'm in a lot of different online marketing groups on Facebook, and people were saying that. They're going, you know, God, if you have children's services right now, anything in education or anything around how to entertain kids, my God, promote and put that up, because it's so relevant right now. And then the thing, are you passionate? We spoke about that. What is your brand message? How do people perceive you? That's an interesting one. When I ask a client, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? What do people say about you that don't even know you? So yeah, brand messaging is critical, and connection marketing is such a wonderful way to get that personality across to people. And so you're not just a faceless company. There's a client of mine, Steve Sid, who's a hospitality entrepreneur. I talk about him a lot. He catapulted himself to growing from, in 18 months of working with us and doing this connection marketing stuff, he went from one family dining restaurant to now over 24 dining concepts, 25 event spaces, and over 250 staff. He 20 times his business. And that largely came from getting confidence to market himself, understanding who he was, positioning himself as a hospitality entrepreneur, talking to his audience in a different way, in a more confident way, positioning himself as a leader. And then he got in front of the right influential people who then set him up into all these different restaurants in the club industry. And again, this was all done strategically. He didn't just wake up one day and all of a sudden got confident on camera and then just started winning all this work. We sat down and we strategized this. The question was, what do you want? I want more restaurants. I want to be more well-known. I want to be paid for my speaking. I want to have a great reputation. I want to be a consultant. Cool. Okay, let's do it. You know, let's get your brand out there. So we did lots of work with him. And it really, for the investment of what we did, but the guy now has a business that is 20 times larger than what he had 2 years ago. So, you know, I think he's not unhappy with his investment. One of the best bits of advice that I got last year from my business advisor was just to package up your services. When you're just going willy-nilly and customizing everything, sometimes people get confused. And when you actually package up your services and they can just see it in front of them, and you get add-ins, I've got a whole series of pages of this. And I just basically, when I do a quote, I send this out to people and they just use it like a shopping list. So it's like, okay, well, I'll take this website package and I'll marry it with that photography package, and I'll have it with that video package, and I'll bundle it all together. And you'll throw in your course and an email newsletter for this for nothing. Cool. I love packages. You know, they're a wonderful way to really sell more to your existing audience. And you know, it's like, do you want fries with that? And this can work for any business of any size. And don't ever assume that people know what you do. Never assume that they actually know all the stuff that you do. Tip 3, I'm just going to rip through this because I want to get to the action plan stuff. Quality content is all about amplifying your message, becoming an epic storyteller, and having a really strong lead magnet. I can do other education sessions on that, or if you go onto my website or onto my Facebook page at divinecreative.com.au, there's so much there. In my podcast, I'm putting up a lot of information on that. And this is really important, the giving value bit. Now, the reason why I talked to you first about, I'm just giving you a little snippet about the content marketing because it's so important, is if you didn't do the first steps in the marketing strategy, this bit where you're just giving value is hit and miss. You could be putting up value for people that they just don't want. It's just not what they're interested in. You might not have been relevant. Remember, I asked that question back in the marketing strategy bit. Are you relevant? Is it what people are wanting right now? You know, no, it's not. You know, you might be selling that thing, but that doesn't apply to me during this period right now where I'm cash strapped. And helping people out that are tight, you know, strapped for cash is going to be something that's relevant, and giving value for people so that they can take it away and exercise you, try you out, test you, and then like you enough that they come back and actually want to do business with you is one of the best ways to get clients. So people are very worried about hanging on to all of their intellectual property. But if you don't share your content in this day and age, you don't share your knowledge, then people will just move on to the next person that does. You know, it's not about advertising in the yellow pages anymore and throwing up a $20,000 ad. It's very much about creating engagement and connecting on a daily basis across multiple platforms. And that all comes down to, so that's the next part of the marketing strategy, is having your content strategy. What are you going to do? What platforms are you going to speak on? Who are you going to speak to? What's their pain? So can you see how it's all kind of interlaced? Like, you can't do this step without having done the previous steps before. And this is the formula that we talk a lot about in the connection marketing, is about the desire. Somebody has a desire or a pain for what you have. You create a connection with your content and your material. It's like, oh my God, being authentic, understanding who they are, connecting to your why, sharing that message. Oh my God, they're just like me. That's amazing. And this works for any size business. Then you create the trust. So you actually demonstrate your expertise, through your blog posts, video, content, webinar, that kind of thing. The credibility comes in it when you have testimonials where you actually show the evidence of people having success. Like my client, I don't accidentally share that story with you about Steve Sid, the hospitality entrepreneur. Like, we had massive, wild success with him. There's my credibility, this works. And then the value is then, in this example, my webinar, huge value. Like, hopefully you guys can get a lot of points that you can take away and exercise and do something and get a very positive result immediately. And then in turn, when the time is right, if you want to, you can come back and then become a client. It's, or not, it's okay, because this is just one big funnel. When you've heard that phrase, the sales funnel, all the activities at the top, and people just go down the funnel deeper and deeper and deeper into being a client. Some people never get out of the top part of the funnel, which is where all your free stuff and your giveaway is, where you're building the credibility and the value. Some people will just stay up there, and that's totally cool, because there's plenty of people that will just catapult themselves down to the bottom of the funnel, which is like be your biggest advocate and buy every single product that you have. So that's where the amplification comes in, and that's why you need the strategy around how you're going to get that message out there. So you're just casting your message out to a wider net. Just understand that your content provides solutions and builds relationships. Relationships are built on trust, and it's the trust that creates the sales. And this is the whole point of why we do the marketing strategy, to get to this point as to then how can we put together really good content that is compelling, that creates trust, because that's when somebody trusts me, when they know, like, and trust me, and they believe that they can actually do what it is that I say, that you'll get the sale. So it is a formula to a degree, but the way that you fulfill that formula is entirely unique. So I know there's no quick answer. Strategic alliances, we talked about that before, so I'm just going to whiz through that. But this is a very valuable exercise for you to do. Basically, just in the outer ring, just put down all the different industries of people that you know and who you can connect to. In the center, you put the pain. In the outside, you have all the different categories of the people that you can get to. And then, like, you can see the top. For me, you could put up the top there, industry, business coaches, accountants and advisors. Well, then I would just go through my LinkedIn and my Facebook and my little black diary, whatever it is, and then ask all those people that I know in there to get me in front of their audiences to grow myself bigger. So that's how strategic alliances work. They are an amazing way to grow really quickly. Action plan. This is what I wanted to get to. This is incredibly important. You can have the best, sexiest, funnest, most engaging marketing strategy in the world, and you can put it in a drawer and nothing happens. Or you can create an action plan where you've got the set goals and then you break it down. The analogy is how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you just turn it into being very small little chunks that you can do, because when you just put up the task or the goal, it's very, very overwhelming. Now, this is a very dull looking document, but this is an action plan. So basically, you can see up the top here is you break down over the next 120 days or next 100 or 90 days, whatever you want it to be, you break down each one of your goals. So for this one, the real life example I use is creating an online course for a small business. And then, so that's the goal. If I just had a to-do list and I wrote that goal down, I mean, how lame would that be? That would just be, I would look at that and I'd just be like, I am never, ever going to get that done. That is just too big. That's too immense. How am I ever going to create an online course? Oh my God, I don't know the first thing about it. So you need to break it down into chunky little pieces. So you'll chunk it down into, the next one I said was develop the strategy for the online course for a divine client. Okay, so what's the strategy? Put that in there. And then, but I would chunk that down even further into other pieces. So you can see my point too is develop the content for divine small business course. So then you can see I go across to the right and I've got who's going to action it is me, what time frame. It was going to take me 2 weeks to do that. I was dreaming it took longer. But I said, okay, 2 weeks. So then if I wanted to, I didn't show it in this diagram because I wanted to show you the overall arching thing, but I would break that down again. So then I would be like, okay, the course is broken up into 8 chapters. Each chapter I'm going to research. Each chapter has probably 10 modules inside of that. And each one of those modules I need to research. And so each module probably takes 2 days each. So then I would break that all down. And then I would break that down even further if I wanted to. It's like, well, I don't have 2 days, but you know what? I do have 2 hours a day. So between the hours of 8 and 10 in the morning, I will work on that until it's done. And so you break it down into your schedule, and that's how stuff happens. When you look at a task and it's so big and overwhelming, and you feel like, well, I don't have 4 days to execute a new website or do my marketing strategy, but I bet you can find 1 hour a day or half an hour a day or 2 hours a day to do that. And then you'll find at the end of 2 weeks, it's done. And people go, well, 2 weeks, that's too long. Well, it's like, well, you never found the 2 days or the 4 days to do it, did you? So at least now it's done at the end of 2 weeks. So does that make sense? I mean, to me, that was just gold when I discovered that. You know, it's just, we have so many big to-do lists. Everything seems overwhelming. And this action plan is what changed my life with getting the course done. I had spoken about putting my online course together for years. Finally got it done when I did this, when I broke it down into these steps, and I just did it. So, and when I say just did it, like I just did it in pieces. I allocated 1 day a week to getting the scripts done. I allocated half a day to getting the videoing done, and then another half day to actually getting it up online. And I just kept a week ahead of myself. So I was actually rolling out content a week ahead of the people doing the course. So there's nothing like having a bit of a, you know, something up the back of you as well. Kind of like get stuff done. Rightio. So this is the homework I want you guys to do. I want you to triple your current communication with your potential clients and your current clients. I just want you to do that. Just see how you go. See if you get more exposure. See if you feel more comfortable. And I want you to understand that as a business owner, 80% of your time really should be spent on sales and marketing. You need to get to a position where you can get people either helping with your marketing, or you get people doing actually the nuts and bolts of your business. And your job as a business leader is actually sales and marketing. I really hope you enjoyed the podcast. This is one of my favorite topics. I know it was a bit dry, but it's really important, and I like to present it in a way so you understand that, you know, this thing called connection marketing is incredibly important, but it's really hard to implement if you don't have an innate understanding of your strategy and your way forward. So hopefully I was able to communicate that to you really clearly and succinctly today. If you want to get in touch and have a chat about this, please do get in touch with me. You can email me or call me or send me a private message, whatever you like. Go check out divinecreative.com.au, which is my agency website, or connectionmarketing.online if you want to know more about my connection marketing course, which I talk about, or go check out melissajscott.com for more podcasts if you like this. And feel free to share it or subscribe to our channels and do all the things, you know, give it the love that helps me be able to create more of these great things for you, because I really enjoy doing it, and it's really great to share it to a bigger, wider community. Thank you for coming along today, and I'll see you next week with our next podcast.